What's going on, Orange Nation? This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. It is Wednesday, August 19th. Happy hump day to all those who celebrate. Got my purple shirt on from my Baltimore Ravens. Not a huge NFL guy, but I follow the Ravens, I follow the Bills, and, I'm just pumped for the fall. Pumped for college football, pro football, a little later on, NBA, college hoops. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. This is Syracuse Central. We talk about Syracuse sports and apparently other things that I like to bring up that have nothing to do with Syracuse sports, so feel free to criticize me there. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Always drop me comments, good or bad. I love feedback. We're on Apple and Spotify. And so it's kind of a tired tale at this point, but let's just say I don't personally know everyone at the NCAA, but as an organization, I absolutely detest it. And this actually, what I'm talking about here, isn't an employee of the NCAA. An NCAA tournament selection committee member said to Jeff Goodman, the co-founder of Field of 68, this week. Let me get the quote right. God, it's unbelievable. This has to do with like 5 for 5 and eligibility and all the court cases and the federal injunction in Colorado, which is being appealed to the 10th Circuit, and then there's all these state cases. this is this is one of this is the quote from this unnamed selection committee member. The NCAA may not be able to threaten teams that use players deemed ineligible by the NCAA, but I can penalize them, and so can other committee members if they want, whether it's by seeding or not even including them in the field, end quote. Right. More on that in a second. Later on, and I think was this Monday? Yeah, it was Monday. Sorry I didn't get to it yesterday. I was obviously focused on some other things, and I didn't actually see it until after I taped yesterday morning. Martin Newton, who is the chair of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, director of athletics at Samford, a couple hours later, obviously in response to this ridiculous quote from this unnamed person, said in a statement, the men's basketball committee's charge is to set up the most competitively balanced tournament possible, selecting the best 44 at-large teams to join 32 automatic qualifiers and then seeding those 76 teams. Remember that the tournament's expanding from 68 to 76 in both the men's and women's. The rest of the quote, it is not under the committee's purview to pass judgment on players deemed eligible by an institution, conference, the NCAA, or other entity. And that's the most important, or other entity, i.e. a judge or, a panel of judges, etc. The quote ends up, a player's or a coach's availability or inability shall be considered without prejudice. This is consistent application to the selection, seeding, and bracketing principles and procedures, which are reviewed and shared annually, end quote. And look, this unnamed committee well, first of all, I know why this person, he or she, was unnamed, because that person would be removed for saying something from the committee. And look, I know there's a lot going on, and the NCAA is obviously pumping its chest, fighting these different legal battles, both federally and in state courts. But how stupid is that? How can you make a comment like that? You're going to exclude. So, this obviously doesn't just pertain to Syracuse, which is obviously trying to have Amari Monroe, the transfer forward from Quinnipiac, be eligible this season. You're telling me that, like, if Syracuse was, poised, let's say they win 24 games in the regular season, so they're clearly going to get in the tournament, and Amari played, and Amari was deemed eligible by the federal injunction or whatever other stuff might come up, but obviously not by the NCAA. You're telling me that this person, this committee member, is going to say, nah, we're going to bump Syracuse from a 5 seed to an 8 seed, or nah, we're going to bump Syracuse from an 8 seed to out of the tournament. Yeah, if that ever happened, I mean, again, I don't know about the legality of it, but that can't happen. That's ridiculous. First of all, there's, I don't have like a list of, because I'm obviously focused on Syracuse, but, there's a decent amount of teams and some really good teams that you would assume will be in the mix for NCAA tournament bids and high seeds. You're gonna punish all of them. You're gonna kick them all out of the tournament. Yeah, okay. And how's that any different than like other stuff like these G League players trying to come back, or international guys that have played at the pro level, if they're deemed eligible. I mean, I know the NCAA is its own governing body and all that, but if there are legal precedents, legal cases that say they're eligible, and this person is gonna like penalize those teams, that is like, gotta be careful. I don't want to get kicked off YouTube. That is the stupidest thing. Well, not the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because I've heard some stupid stuff, but that is completely moronic. Am I wrong? Are y'all agreeing with me? Feel free to drop me comments and say, Neil, you aren't you're the moron, not this community. Like, I just don't. How can you say that? It's so stupid. I mean, I'd love to know the conversation or the text or whatever it was, the exchange between Goodman and this committee member. Like, did this committee member reach out to Goodman unsolicited? Did Jeff reach out to this person, and like, what was the dialogue, and was he like baiting him a little bit? Like, I'm not a huge Jeff Goodman fan. I mean, he obviously knows his stuff and has crazy good sources, and um well, maybe some sources are better than others. I just think he's kind of a, I don't know, I'm not a, there are other like national writers, analysts, reporters that I like better than Jeff. I'm not like hating on him. I don't hate him. I don't know, I like others better. But how can you say something like that? That is ridiculous. I don't know. Drop me comments. Let me know what you think. That is so ridiculous. All right, my friends. Sorry, we're going to pivot here to football for a second, because this is a humongous thing, and I can't ignore it. And I obviously been focusing on basketball here the last couple of days. But yesterday, Progressive Insurance, which is one of the biggest insurance companies in the country, announced an agreement that was facilitated by Learfield. Some of you might know that name, where Progressive is going to have its logo on football fields at 13 different schools. Let me make sure, and Syracuse is one of them. And this is a big deal. Let me pull up my notes, and there's some big names here. Georgia, Ole Miss, USC, Oregon, Syracuse, Boise State, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas State, Purdue, SMU, Texas Tech, Wake Forest. So, Georgia's won a couple titles recently. Ole Miss was in the playoff last year. USC is just a big brand historically. Oregon is the number 2 preseason team in the AP poll. You've got a couple ACC teams. Texas Tech is a pretty darn good team. Colorado with Deion Sanders. Boise State over the years has done some nice things, as they're not like a mid-major, but not a power conference team. I think you get the point. This is a wide mix of teams, and I will say that I texted an SU Athletics Department spokesperson yesterday about it. Didn't hear back. They might not be commenting. I also know it's preseason camp, so no worries there. I sent a list of questions to Progressive about this, and the spokesman that got back to me said it might take a while and he's not sure what he can answer, blah, blah, blah. But he did send me a statement. I'll read it to you. It's kind of whatever, vanilla, but here it is. And then I'll get obviously more into what this means. And I've talked to a couple of sports marketing experts, so this is something important. Where is the quote from Progressive? Sean Freeman, the media business leader of Progressives, he told me in a statement, college football is about more than what happens on game day. It reflects the pride, tradition, and community that defines Syracuse, and we're proud to support the student athletes, alumni, and fans who help make this program so special. We're thrilled to have the opportunity to be a part of game days with this historic fan base, end quote. Okay, I've obviously got more stuff, more comments that I'm looking for, or questions I've got for them. We'll see if they get back to me. So this deal with these 13 schools, it'll start this season. Progressive is going to have an on-field logo. The Sports Business Journal reported that the on-field logo placement for these different schools will vary from the sideline to the 50 and 25-yard line. There's also going to be marketing stuff for Progressive on the in-game video boards, LED signage, digital and social media stuff, other game day experiences. The bottom line is, okay, let me back up for a second. And I'll probably take a little bit of time with this segment, because this is an important story, not just this deal. This is an important story for Syracuse and for college sports, given the landscape now. So let me back up. Last year, last summer, the multi-billion-dollar House antitrust settlement was approved. That paved the way for schools to start directly paying their players in the 25-26 sports season. And that will continue on and on. Teams last year could share, oh gosh, of course, now I forgot the number. I think it was 20.5. Yes. 20.5 million up to 20.5 million schools could share with their players last year. Syracuse did that. The cap this year is around 21.3 million. SU Athletics Director Brian Blair has said they will share that amount. And that's good. You want to do that to stay competitive. And then obviously you've got third-party NIL stuff, and there's One Orange Alliance, which is relaunched in the spring, covering all SU sports. But there is pressure on athletics departments, whether it's Syracuse or other schools in big leagues or small leagues, to consistently generate revenue, because they got to pay their athletes, predominantly, depending on the school, but in a lot of schools, predominantly football, and then men's basketball, women's basketball. I don't know about lacrosse and others. Schools don't say a lot, at least Syracuse doesn't. So you've got to keep generating money, and then you've got to fund your Olympic sports, your non-revenue sports. You got to fund your staff. So there's pressure. I have no problem with players getting paid, but they're not student athletes now; they're athletes. But there's pressure. So as a result, athletic departments have to get creative and find new revenue streams. And obviously there have been stadium naming rights deals for forever. The Carrier Dome, 1979, JMA Wireless Dome a couple years ago. But then I think it was 2024, the NCAA approved where you could have logos on fields. Let me make sure I get this right. Yes, 2024 NCAA approved sponsorships on football fields for regular season games. For this season, you can have up to 2 commercial logos on jerseys and uniforms, one additional one permitted during conference championship or postseason bowl CFP competition, and then 1 logo on helmets. And then you've got these different elements that are more recent, and you're seeing more and more teams doing it. Whether it's a one-off, or there was like something recently, it was the Big 12 did like a conference-wide thing with Monster Energy for jersey patches and all kinds of other stuff. But this deal with Progressive is unique because A, it was facilitated by Learfield, meaning they're probably getting a cut. That's what experts tell me. And it's for 13 schools all at once, and they're across different markets and different conferences. It's an interesting, unique deal. That's what several marketing experts told me. How much is it worth? That is a tough question. One expert I talked to yesterday, a professor at North Carolina, he said he thought it would be completely reasonable that it was at least $1 million per school per year. And we don't know how many years it is, but the Sports Business Journal reported it was multi-years. But the professor also said, look, even if it's $1 million plus per school, Learfield's going to get a cut. There's going to be a revenue split some way. I don't know the percentages. Another professor told me that, yeah, it could be a $10 million combined deal per year, or $20 million, or it could be a lot less. And it could be staggered, bigger schools with more success recently, like in Oregon and a Georgia and Ole Miss might get more than Syracuse. We don't know. This is all speculation, but I'm just telling you that I talked to, 3 or 4 sports marketing experts yesterday, and they provided some context. But the bottom line is, Syracuse being involved in a deal like this with these other schools, it's a big deal for Syracuse. It's a significant investment, not just the money, but just kind of the perception, the optics. Oh, wow, Syracuse inked a deal with one of the largest insurance companies in the country that also is going to be at Georgia and Texas Tech and USC. It's good for many reasons. And for Progressive, experts told me, it gets them into these different markets. And look, I don't know their specific strategy, but maybe they're trying to sell more insurance policies, whether it's car, home, boats, or whatever. They sell 1 million different ones. By the way, do you like the Progressive commercials? I absolutely love them. They're so sarcastic and snarky, but I love them. But, maybe Progressive is trying to make more inroads with college students in Central New York and Lubbock, Texas, and wherever, Athens, Georgia, or wherever. I'm just saying, I don't know the strategy because Progressive hasn't gotten back to me, neither has Learfield or SU Athletics, frankly. But they're probably not talking to a lot of people, and I know I'm kind of small potatoes. But again, people I did talk to, for all these reasons, said it's just a really, it's it's a win-win for Syracuse. It's a win-win, and the professor from UNC I talked to, we talked for like 30 minutes. He's really cool, and he didn't hold it against me that we're in the ACC and he is too. He said that you're going to see more deals like this, whether it's a bunch of schools at once or conference wide or individual, but the on-field inventory, he called it, is extremely valuable. And other experts echo that because, like, for instance, you've got the All-State logo when the field goal kicks, the net goes up, but that's not visible the whole game. Stuff, if it flashes on the video boards, it's not visible all game. Something on the field, whether it's the sideline, the 25-yard line, that's there all the time. And that's like, you cannot, I mean, you can put a price tag on that in terms of value, but it's important. And the UNC professor also told me that, look, you want to find the right partner. And he said, like, stable, financially stable companies most of the time, like banks, credit unions, insurers, medical companies. He also mentioned like automobile dealerships and stuff like that, but maybe not on the same scale with the same pockets. But they're financially stable. They probably aren't controversial. They're not like a crypto company or something else like that, that maybe rubs people the wrong way. That being said, I've already seen on Inside the Loud House social media social media and just like people in chat rooms. It's going to turn some people off in terms of having the logos on the field, on the jerseys and the helmets and the uniforms. But this is the sign of the times. And he also made a good quote to me. He said, Neil, if it comes down to Syracuse signing a deal with Progressive or raising ticket prices, and they could raise ticket prices regardless, but if that helps offset the revenue from that helps offset raising ticket prices, people will get over the sponsorship stuff. They might not love it, but they'll get over it. They'll keep rooting for their teams. People aren't going to stop coming to the JMA Wireless Dome to root for Syracuse because there's a Progressive logo on the field. Maybe one individual here and there, but saying widespread. So again, I think it's a significant deal. One professor said one of the quotes was, it's an absolute win for Syracuse. And let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here through my notes. Talked to a bunch of people. And Progressive is being aggressive. Progressive is being aggressive in this space. In June, they signed an agreement with the Chicago Sky and the WNBA. Last month, they signed a multi-year marketing agreement with the Cleveland Sirens, which is another WNBA team that's starting in 2028. So it seems like they're really want to be in this space, and it's again, not to keep using like cliche words, but I really do think it's a win-win. Okay, let me know what you think though. Are you turned off by this? Do we all agree that it's a sign of the times and we may not like it? We can hate it, but we'll have to live with it. That's kind of where I am. I don't want everything to be oversaturated with logos everywhere, but like, I get it. They got to keep raising money. Moving on. Little women's hoop stuff. Not a big story here, but just a little bit. So we know the Syracuse men's basketball non-conference. We know the 14 teams. Well, one's reportedly, and we know the dates for 13. For women's hoops, it's coming out more piecemeal, one at a time. But Syracuse women's basketball is going to host Canisius from Buffalo on Sunday, November 15th at the Dome. We don't know the tip-off time or broadcast info yet. That's the same day that Syracuse men's hoops will be in Madison Square Garden in New York City to play St. John's. In terms of women's hoops, they've played Canisius 14 times. Syracuse is 12-2. They played last year. Syracuse won at home in December of 2025 by a final of 96-72. Before that, they hadn't met since 14-15. And their first matchup was in 79-80, like 2 years after I was born. Um, Canisius was not good last year, 5-24 overall, 3-17 in league competition. They're in the Metro Conference. Syracuse, as we know, was 24-9, reached the second round of the tournament. Here is the what we know so far about the non-conference schedule. They have for women's hoops. They have an exhibition against UConn at the Mohegan Sun in Newcastle, Connecticut on Monday, October 12th. They host Sacred Heart on November 3rd. The Sacred Heart is the season opener, and then the rest of these are regular season games. Canisius at the Dome November 15th. Oklahoma at the Dome on December 3rd in the ACC SEC Challenge. And then Syracuse women's basketball heads to Lemoyne on Wednesday, December 16th. So that's 4 games so far. I honestly don't remember when they announced games last year, and I don't really care, but I do think it's kind of weird that we're like trending a little bit towards September and they've announced 4 games. But they announced a spokesperson there told me last week that they announced the games as the contracts are signed. So it is what it is. I do think the women's hoops is going to be poised to make a run at a second straight NCAA tournament. You know, they've got Uche Zohe back. Several other players were waiting on Dominique Darius if she's getting a waiver for another season. And they obviously brought in 2 incoming freshmen from the state of New York, as well as multiple college transfers and a couple overseas prospects. So, you know, we'll see how the roster meshes together, but it's, I think they'll be a solid team. All right, finally, we're going to get to your comments, which include chatting about Italian subs. So I'm all about that. Wayne writes, Parm sub, oh my God. Thank you for your deep dives and your stats. You bring me the best recruiting news. Wow. Thank you, Wayne. I love recruiting and I'll keep doing this. So yeah, recruiting is big for me. He says, I love and bleed orange. Really appreciate you. Great shows. Always let me know when it comes to the stats. Yeah, I'm going to look into that at some point in terms of Syracuse's record at the Garden and Barclays. And he said, no hurries, no worries, my life motto. I like that. No hurries, no worries. I'm stuck down in Venice, Florida, way far from home. Venice, Florida. Okay. Well, I appreciate you, Wayne. And yeah, I mean, I know my strengths and weaknesses in recruiting stuff I'm good at. So I appreciate you, brother. My man, peace, love. I got to write you back, dude. I'll write you back today. Peace, love writes, the best thing about our depth is how they'll push each other in practices. You need good players to push good players and make them better. I also think it speaks to the quality of our coaching staff and the recruiting chops that we have at least 10 legit starters, if not more. Yeah, I agree with that. And then he says, guys like Fulafak and Monroe committed late. To me, that speaks to the draw of the coaches, the systems, or the other aspects of the program. Yeah, that's well said. I'm telling you, I think this team is going to surprise people. I don't know how pretty they'll look on offense or shooting threes, but they're going to be good on defense. They're going to be long, athletic, and it's going to be we before me. I really think so. So that's good stuff there. And then he also says a couple other things, including when it comes to the anticipated rotation, don't sleep on Tasman Goodrick. He got injured early on at Siena last year. He's a legit stretch forward, can play the 5. He's the most versatile big we have on the roster unless Sadiq is added to his effective shooting range in the offseason. Yeah, I like Goodrick and I like Fulafak. Absolutely. You can't fix stupid. He says, hey, Neil, I'm back. Life and a little illness set me back. Okay, most importantly, my man, are you okay? You feeling all right? I know I get life and being busy, but I hope you're feeling all right. Let me know. I agree with your starters assessment, but as I used to tell my guys, it's not who starts, it's on the floor at the end of the game. Depth is always nice to have as an option. Bring it on. Thanks for the video. Dude, that's my exact model. I always say, I mean, I know like people love talking about projected starters and all this stuff, but then I say, ultimately for me, it's not about who starts, it's about who plays the most minutes and who's playing in crunch time. Love you, man. Good to see you. Hope you're feeling all right. Mike Gross writes, I know a Parm. I think I've tried their meatballs at a potluck, but don't think I've ever visited or tried the chicken parm. That being said, I've heard great things of the chicken parm at Parm. My brother has been and loves it. It's on my list for sure. My lasagna sub was a seeded Italian roll, which I tried to cut the top off and hollow out and the layer of the lasagna inside the bread. I saw it on a YouTube short, but I couldn't find it again, so I went off memory and winged it. It came out okay. decent, but not an all-time great. I did 2 layers of noodles, meat sauce, and mozzarella, then topped it with cutout bread. Reminded me of veal and peppers without the nice chew of the veal chunks. Was a good effort on my part, but I wouldn't call it a total victory. Well, you're just being hard on yourself, bro. That sounds awesome. And like, I have a little bit of Italian blood in me, but I'm not like full blown Italian. But I love Italian food. I like meatballs, but I love chicken parm. I love lasagna, but like chicken piccata, chicken what's the one with the mushrooms? Oh God, I'm totally blanking on it. Um, Chicken mushrooms Italian. What is it called? Marsala. I love marsala, cacciatore. I love all those. But that sounds really good. A lasagna sub, dude. When I come up and we hang out and we go to a game, I'm totally making you make me a lasagna sub, or we're barbecuing, grilling. I'll pay for all the groceries and you cook it up, and we'll drink some beers and it'll be fun. All right, FW Quai, what's up? I think the starters will be Dual, Doty, Monroe, White, Wilson, Tobiasen as a backup point guard wing, Kine as a back shooting guard, Moreno, Triple M as a small forward, Full Effect at power forward, Goodrich at center. I don't know if Sivy and Mesh will play much beyond the low mid-major non-conference games. I could see Tobiasen winning the starting point guard role for more of an offensive boost. Yeah, I mean, I think I said yesterday, I thought like Dual is a kind of a lock, and Tobiasen and Wilson. But if it ultimately was that Doty was in the starting lineup and Amari Monroe and Tobiasen was a sixth man, I mean, again, they're all going to play. You can have 6 guys play relatively, starter minutes. And to be honest with you, like obviously you want your main guys to be playing 25 plus minutes, but we don't need Syracuse. This is just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Oh, sorry, I got to move here. Um, we don't need like I feel like in years past, and it could be injuries and other issues like beyond just like control, so to speak. We don't need guys to be playing like 35, 37 minutes a game. Like maybe in certain games if it's really close, or it's just you're riding a certain guy that's just playing awesome, like lights out, unconscious, fine, whatever. But I'd rather have, if they've got, if there's not much of a drop off with the reserves, and they can provide fresh legs, and they can do full court press more, and just get after it on both ends of the floor and get out in transition, and there's not an issue with stamina because there's more depth. Like I'm all about it. But yeah, certain guys will obviously gravitate towards playing more. But yeah, I could see that FW quiet. I could see Tobias being a sixth man, Kyan being the seventh man. I mean, or I could see Monroe being a sixth man. Sadiq could be who the heck knows? But it's just like, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. I think it's going to be a fun roster. Um, Jay Gill 75 writes, Andre Sibby will surprise. Look, when he committed to Syracuse, I talked to some experts as well as other reporters did, and people said if he was in the States, he would have been like a high 4-star, maybe in a 5-star, contending for McDonald's All-American. People said that. It's just that he's overseas, and so you don't know about him as much. But one scout I know said that he could have an impact right like as a freshman immediately, especially on the defensive side. Now, certainly he'll need to add strength and build out his frame. I think I don't know if he's 19. I don't want to misspeak there, but he's a younger guy. Um, but again, this depth is crazy, and so yeah, that's a good comment. Jay Gill. It wouldn't like if you told me later on in the season that Sivy was getting whatever number of minutes, but making an impact, with rebounding, maybe scoring around the rim, rim protection, defense, like it wouldn't surprise me, not at all. So, and then these are some good comments here, and I totally get this sentiment. My man Fred Benjamin writes, with all the depth they have this year, there's not going to be enough minutes to keep everyone satisfied. I predict there will be a good number of players entering the portal at the end of the season. And then Tim 48, another one of my guys. That's my fear as well. We can only hope a couple of good ones stay. And then Peace Love, 3 of my favorites, writes, there are a good number of players entering the portal every season. We only need to keep the best. Beyond that, it wouldn't surprise me if more than usual stage areas prioritize bringing kids who are selfless and who have the tendency to put the team before themselves. I agree with all of you. I think all of you make valid points. I think that ultimately, if Monroe is eligible and they have 16 guys, although a handful of them aren't really going to play this year, let's be honest. Dell, Russell, I don't think Ethan Butler probably would play that much, and Iker Martinez. But I could see some guys transferring because some guys every year at every program are going to transfer because they want more minutes. But I could also see maybe in years past or under a different head coach, some guys that didn't play much might say, uh, if it was under a different coach, I would transfer. But if it's Jerry, and I believe in Jerry, and they do have some upperclassmen, who knows that how long they'll be around for. Obviously, 5 for 5 changes things a bit, but maybe they'll say, I believe in Jerry, and I want to be a multi-year player at this at this program, and I believe in what Jerry's building. So I could see some guys transferring or moving on just the next level, but I could see some guys more than usual stay. I mean, the last 2 years, so 2 years ago, the only two guys that returned were Starling and Freeman. This past year, it was well, that was for last season. This year, it was for the year ahead, main rotational, Kai and Sadiq, and then obviously Lebdell and Russell. So I could definitely see more than 2 to 4 staying. But again, we'd have to see how the team fares on the court. Do any guys go pro? Guys that could use a fifth year, are they using that fifth year? We also got to see what the 2027 prep recruiting class looks like. They have Jock Donahue, but going after other guys as well. But great thoughts. Great thoughts. I went over 30 minutes today. Sorry, I know I rambled a bit with the progressive thing, but I think it's an important story to tell. And these were great comments from you all. Let's just keep rocking it. This is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Always drop me comments, good or bad. We're on Apple and Spotify. Awesome insights, my friends. Good to see all my dudes commenting. And as we get closer to the start of the season in football and people are back from summer vacations, I think we'll just grow this community more. It's going to be great. All right, my friends, have a great Wednesday. I will talk to you again on Thursday. Much love.